started. So today we are going to be showing a little of some of the bigger things that we did in the update. And then also we just flagged Dorian's Google Charts pattern as featured. So you will now see that in the patterns list. So if you want to add any sort of like metrics or stuff, there are two options that you have. So in the elements list, which whoever wants to start first, Drew, actually, we can start with you on some of the basic UI stuff if you want to start getting your screen ready.
Yep.
So if you want to add Google Charts, there's two different ways you can do it. You can either go into the elements list and drag and drop the Google Charts element onto your page and do the setup, or Dorian has made a really nice pattern with like, I think, is it 3 different charts, Dorian? You're muted, dude. 3 different charts.
Yes. It's all of them. So I think there's 5 of them.
Oh, five that are like nicely styled and already have the settings pre-done. And so you can just bring that into your project, delete the ones you don't want to use and keep the one that you do, that kind of thing. So that will be fun. And then, yeah, so I guess we will show, is there anything we need to do, Drew, to let you show your screen?
Let's see. I don't think so. You can see it, right?
Okay.
I was just waiting. I didn't want to like just throw it up there.
Yeah. All right. So Drew, I would love if you would take us through some of the big changes. Let's start with the website before we go into the studio. It obviously looks vastly different. Can you tell us a little bit about, I always love asking you these questions because you're such like an artist. Tell us about where the inspiration from your design came from and kind of what, I guess that I want to know, like, what were your thoughts building this?
It's a good question. So I did the last Bildr site fairly quickly, and it was like right when I started working with Bildr. So for this one, I just knew that like I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to put like more thought into it, like really like kind of like do a good job so that I could show off. And then right before I started working on it, there's someone made a comment on Twitter about the old website, and it just like fueled me for whatever. And I don't usually get like that, but for whatever reason, I was like, oh, what? Like they're gonna. And I spent this time and I went deep, and I was just playing with like gradients and fades because I'm really into that at the time. I'm kind of into it now. And I was playing with the design, it just kind of came together, and I went with it. That's basically where the inspiration came from. But I made a little bit more of an effort than usual to try to like do cool little details so that this time, no one has anything to say about it.
I think what did that tweet say, that it was like boring, or the font,
I can't even remember,
but like that? I can't.
Yeah.
So, and we also got some feedback that it maybe wasn't super clear what Bildr did. So I think that
was a big component too.
Yeah.
That was basically the whole reason, is we needed to like be more clear about Bildr on the site. That's really what stemmed the redesign in the first place. Yeah.
So I think that is like plays into the marketing, and also as we are learning who our user base is, all of that informs the changes that we are making. So can you, and Drew, he built this whole thing in Bildr, right? So you did the whole design, all of it, all of this is done in Bildr. Can you take us through some of the, like, would you just scroll through and take us through maybe some of the unique things that you might have done here?
Yeah. So I think this isn't necessarily unique, but I'll just go down the page. And I think the first thing is we're focusing on visual development, and we're focusing on SaaS and like some certain things that are going to be like, it's basically the direction that Bildr is going, and the direction, and we're just being much more explicit about it. So you'll see that throughout. And then we played around a lot with this main kind of image, and ended up with this fast motion thing, because there's just too much to show off. Like we couldn't do an image or anything different. This was kind of like a good solution. But as you come down here, there's little things that you can see start to happen, like those logos popped in, and these features are kind of sliding up. And those are the kind of unique details where I just made a custom, this is an action, I believe, to slide these up, a custom action in Bildr that I haven't actually packaged it up, but any day now I'm going to package it up. Now we can all use it. Where basically when an element scrolls into view, you can run any action you want. And so we did a lot of little things like that. And I think there's some like on the buttons here, it might be hard to see through the video, but there's a lot of little subtle animations and little things that make a website really look crisp. We try to just include those all in here. And then we're going to package all that stuff up so that you all can include it in your projects too. Things like, this diagonal line, even just like little things, little details. And I won't read these features, but these features are much more accurate and specific to like what build, like they'll give you the picture of Bildr, whereas the last website really didn't. And then we've got a shout out wall, which is just an embed, kind of a cool little thing. Some more features.
Do we have an action or anything for other people to embed shout out into their apps?
There is a shout out element that we made and used for this. And I feel like there's one last thing we need to do before we give it to people. I can't remember. I don't think it's like in the actual studio, but if anyone wants
I have it.
You have it?
I have it in my list to share. I already have it. It's pretty much there. I mean, what you did with it before was pretty much there. You basically just copy and paste your wall name into it. And as long as your wall is published, that's all you have to do. So yeah, like
awesome.
you said, if anybody wants it, we can easily just give it over. But it will show up in the list of elements here pretty soon too.
Okay, great. Love to hear it. I'll make a note on that. All right.
Yeah, we are highlighting integrations. Another thing where in Bildr, everything is technically an integration, but we realized that it's more advantageous and more clear to everyone to actually highlight some of these integrations. And these are like Lottie files and Xano, for instance, we're working on official integrations with them. Like these are a little more bigger scale, real integrations. These are all in the studio today, that kind of thing. And then we just try to highlight, but you can do anything, you can integrate anything. And then, just to focus on who it's for, because that's, if you come in here and it's not for you, you're going to fail, basically. You're going to be confused or it's not the right thing. So we want to be a little clear up front and give people the right expectations. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just a standard correct homepage, I would say, whereas the last homepage was very bare bones and just didn't have enough. This is kind of what Bildr deserves.
I love it, Drew. I think you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
I'm really, really happy about it.
It was a team effort. It wasn't just me. I spearheaded, but we all.
I'll tell you what was a team effort is the conversations we would have about the font. Drew and I are very, very dedicated to this font. What is it called, Drew? Do you know?
Do I even remember? I don't know. Oh, it's called, I gotta remember.
I don't know, but like, I'm just so adamant about having like an interesting font. And Mark was like, it's too hard to read. We need to change it. Like we should go for something that's more standard. And like, those were really fun conversations, but we came with a happy medium.
I actually like where it landed. It was, in my opinion, too hard to read before.
Yeah.
Drew,
this font is called Upgrade, and it's like it's got this thick one. That's what I'm going to try to show you while he's talking.
It's like letter spacing, and there was a certain thickness to it that just made it difficult for me to read. And same thing on the blog was the same, but Drew fixed it all, with keeping the font. So I was happy at the end.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool type stuff in here actually because of that, because we were going back and forth so much and I really didn't want to change this font. I don't even care that much about fonts, but I kind of love this font. So I was really trying to keep it. So in the end, it's pretty complex type work. I mean, it's really cool. It's something I'm kind of proud of. So there's a lot of very tiny type details and variations throughout the whole site.
Yeah, I love it. I'm really, really happy we found a good compromise on that. So yeah, do you want to take us quickly through some of the new pages we have on the website?
Yeah, I'll just touch on a few things probably, but I think the big thing that everyone wants to see and that we need to have is this showcase page. And so there's a little banner on the homepage that calls to it, and then we've got little write-ups. But what we started is a system on the back end where we can build these showcases out into full case studies and have their own pages and do a bunch more with these. This is kind of step one. This is actually like my project, Mark's project, my project, Mark's project. So, but we really want to get outside projects in here, and there are a few that are getting done, that are done and getting done now. So this will
Yes.
change in the future, but this is a good start and something that like pretty much is what you want to see. Like you don't know Builder and you come, you're like, what can be built in Builder? You know, that's what people want to know.
Yes.
One cool thing here that Drew did is he made this totally dynamic. So now to update these, we can add new ones and we can modify them. It's basically a CMS, right? It's built as a CMS. And so, you know, it's something that most of you all might want to have on your website for your product, something dynamic. It may not be a showcase like this, but something dynamic that you can add and remove from. And there's several things on here that Drew did that were dynamic, like the header at the top for a notification, and the integrations are dynamic. There's a lot of dynamic pieces in here. And so there are things that we'll be highlighting in blog posts and in content so that you all can know how we do that and make it easy for you to do as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing at the top, like a banner that you can change in and out to make like announcements on your app. I think that would be a really good one for people to be able to do. And then of course we want to build out this list. So you guys, if y'all finish something or and are ready to share it and would like to be considered for the showcase, please let us know. And it'd be great to have some more user projects up on there. All right, Drew, carry on.
So I'm probably going to actually just skip about and pricing. You know, they're very standard pages, but something we need to have. But I'll touch on the blog quickly, just show it, you know, that we have it now. And so we've got more content lined up that we'll be releasing, but this is the first one in here. So you can go check that out. And like, this is going to be, you know, a place where we can share things. So there's a lot of information that the outside world doesn't know that they should know about Bildr. So we're going to be, you know, fairly rapid fire, just pushing out this content and sharing a bunch of the behind the scenes stuff. So it should be a cool space to watch, basically. I did show community off like 2 times ago, Builder Hour or something, but the whole community is basically, we heard all the feedback and fixed everything and, you know, made it look nicer. So the community is pretty awesome now. And there's even things like these reactions. And speaking of dynamic, like these actual emojis are dynamic. Like I can go add and change them right now in an admin if I want, and they'll show up and still calculate the same. So we went pretty far with this stuff, kind of just to make it like this is the home for the community. So we're gonna treat it as an important home for the community. We're not gonna like have little mistakes. I think on the last version, if you tried to add a comment on mobile, it didn't work, weird stuff. So that's all taken care of. And now this is gonna be, you know, just gonna be built on moving forward.
Yeah, so if y'all have any special requests for what you'd like to see in the community, we do have some things planned, like being able to maybe have some internal messaging in here or DMs, or maybe like a live chat, or just being able to get notified when certain people reply, like while you're in here and stuff like that.
And then if you haven't seen this yet, these are the lessons that are in the studio. And we pulled them out into like an education section. So same thing, this page, this section will get built out over time, but it's a place you can come, you know, right in our community here, and you can get a list of the resources, and then you can view all these lessons. And I think I mentioned this too, this is sounding familiar as I'm saying it, but the cool thing about this is that these lessons are in a database in the studio. But because the studio and the website are in the same project, like I'm just pulling these directly from that same database. Like it was really cool to be able to kind of merge the app and the website in this way. And so as we add lessons to the studio, whether they're for specific patterns or specific elements, they'll show up and be searchable in here too on the site.
I'd add to that too, like we'll probably end up doing something like having a toggle on the lessons that we're creating, say, show this in the education publicly or only for a pattern or only. So that thing of mixing website and app together goes a long way for tools like Bildr. You got to have a fairly complex product, you know, to get to that point where you need like the internal data. But there are some use cases that are even for really simple projects. Like I could see, for instance, it would make it easy for, say, Canoe, like what Michael's building. He could build effectively like a demo version, a real one, and just display it on the website. You know, it actually just work on the website and even use temporary data and stuff. And so you can use that mix and match for a lot of different purposes.
There's a really good example actually where, so like every product I've built in the past in code, you make the app where you can sign in, and then you make the website, and up here, you want to say sign up if they're not signed in, and you want to say like go to the app if they are signed in. It's very common. And I used to always have to do like a separate API call and create the endpoint, all stuff, where Bildr, because it's the same project, I just check if they're signed in. If they're signed into the studio, they're signed into the website. It's all the same. And so I can actually, that's a very, I would say that happens on every, SaaS product website I make, where I want to change the menu based on whether they're signed in or not. So that's a perfect, simple example right there.
Cool.
I don't know what else. I mean, we've got a dedicated support. Oh, one thing I should show, and then we can move on, is this was here before, but it's a little cleaned up. But everyone on your profile page, you can actually go to this profile page layout. And if you have projects you've built, showcase products, or if you have patterns, you can add them and you can kind of create your own sections. So you have like a section with a title and supporting text, and you can add patterns and showcase projects and mix and match them. And you essentially create like a little profile page for yourself. So mine looks like this on the front end. And if I want to share patterns with people, here's a place to do it. They can just go to my profile page. And you can see it's kind of a dynamic little profile page that each of us has. You can do whatever you want with. But yeah, I think that's probably it for the site, unless people have questions or want to see anything specifically.
Yeah, if y'all have any questions, definitely chat them. Let's head into the studio, Drew. Show them my favorite thing.
The right click?
Yeah.
Is that your favorite?
You guys, I am obsessed. It's like the smallest change ever. Mark, how long did this take you to do?
A couple hours or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It was probably like 20 minutes to get it there, but that's primarily because the left panel already had the menu. So I didn't really have to do much there,
Okay.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're talking about is this menu here is now available on every element when you right click. So small thing, but it's kind of a game changer as far as like build speed. So if you want to copy an element or duplicate or whatever, it's all right in here. Just do it. I don't actually know. Oh, I duplicated that link. I wasn't even paying attention when I clicked.
I have a question. I've gotten some requests from people, and I kind of want to do this too. If an element allows children, then when you right click on it, I kind of want to add a inline search for new things to drop inside of that right there. So there's no clicking or externalizing it at all. Anybody have any, does anybody care about that? Does that sound good to anybody? I've looked at doing it. I've gotten some requests for it, but I haven't done it yet. Yeah.
I've always wanted that, but then now that I'm used to it, I kind of forgot. But that was when I first came into the studio. That was something I would have loved.
Huh.
Just to be able to kind of boom and then put it right in. You're staying all in context here. It would be nice.
Right. What was the question from Peter?
Is it possible to make an API polling to see if there are any changes for showing, like event listener, but for APIs?
So
Go ahead.
you're wanting to, if it's when a user is on a page, you can easily do that with just like a timer action. It'll just loop through the API call. Just do it every X seconds that you put in there. But if it's server side, you need to make a server side function to actually do that. If you know JavaScript or if you know Node, you could do that, no problem. But also we could help if that's something that you want to get done and you don't know how to do it. Any thoughts there?
Any thoughts from me?
Yeah, anything to add to that?
I don't think so. I was just reading it over, trying to figure, because I didn't quite understand the question at first.
Yeah, maybe one small thing.
I think, Peter, what you're asking. Yeah, go ahead, Dorian.
I was just going to say, if you are going to use that timer action, one thing that you probably want to set up when you're setting the data into maybe the grid or chart or whatever element is set it using a merge so that it's fast and you're not having to re-render everything.
Yeah, good call. You mean whenever you set it back into the grid? Yeah, and the webhooks will come later, Peter. So we are working on some stuff. We're going to talk about some feature requests at the end of the call, and part of it will have to do with being able to run calls on data on our side, and then also the other way around, right?
Coolio. All right, Drew, what else do we have left to show on here? I think hotkeys.
Hotkeys for one, which is like this is actually probably my favorite feature of the new release. Besides the speed's crazy, but this you can now, so like the zoom, you can see these shift 1, shift 2, shift 0. There some of the hints there, but what I'm always using is shift minus and plus. And then if you're on a page and you want to just look at that page, you can do shift 2 and it pops it big there. This for me was like huge. I didn't even know I wanted this, but I love this. And it does that same thing when you're switching workspaces. It'll pop it. It'll basically do a shift 2 for you once it loads, and it puts you right on the page you're on. So it's really nice. And then another one, shift 1, will just show you all the pages on your canvas that it can show you. It's probably it for the major zooms, right? Shift 0, zoom to 100%, which is like the actual size, not like fitting it in, but the actual 100% size. But yeah, just having those is huge as far as moving around the canvas. And we used to do that thing where it pans in the canvas and slides over. Now everything snaps, so it feels much more snappy to kind of like move through and zoom in and out and switch workspaces, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Drew, could you show us real quick where you can now set a page width by clicking like the 3-dot menu up at the top next to the page name? If so, now you do have a shortcut to set a page width if you want.
Yeah, that was like requested feature. So I can go like that. And I mean, that's just the, same as doing this, I believe, just so you can see how it reacts to different sizes.
Cool.
One thing on the zoom in, zoom out that we're still working on getting right is the pinch. The steps are not quite right, and it's different on different devices. So just if anybody's using the pinch to zoom, like on a MacBook or on you have like an Apple mouse and you're using command pinch, that kind of thing, the steps feel weird. So we're still working on that, just to call that out. That'd be the only. So I'm using the hotkeys a lot, because normally I would like zoom in and out with my pinch, but using the hotkeys a lot, just kind of worked around it.
Yeah, it's a little too sensitive right now, right? Like it just goes either super zoomed or like super far out.
It's too sensitive, and the steps are too small. I think it's like 5 pixels or 5% at a time. Sorry, and so it's like goes really fast through 5 pixels at a time, so it looks super jittery because of that. So we need to slow it down, and we need to make those steps probably like 15 or 20%, something like that. But we're still playing around with it. We'll get to something that looks good.
Cool. Anything else you guys want to call out in the studio before we switch to Mark?
I can't remember what else. If I had something else, I think that might be it for what I was looking at.
All right. Thank you, Drew. Very, very happy with these changes, especially on the website. It feels really, really good. All right. So Marco, 3 things to talk to us about: the new data UI, the regional data, what you can do with that, and the Chrome extension.
Yep. Yeah. So let me just jump through them. So can you all see my screen? Everybody sees it? Sweet. So we'll just go in that order. We'll start with the data UI, which I was really hoping to get creation and modification of data into this release, but we just couldn't get it there. More to do before I get it there, but I'll show you where we got. So over here on the left side, we have the data collections and users button. And this, and I should have gotten out of our dev environment. That's okay. This basically lists all your collections. You can click on it and see any fields that are in there. Really easy to just modify field names, add new fields, remove fields, see things like field IDs, which sometimes you might need if you want to do some manual work in there. And then if you click on the little cog here, you can get into the properties of the collection. And then this data tab is coming soon. So in the data tab, you'll be able to create data, modify data, import data, all that good stuff. Just didn't quite get it there for this release. In the users though, you can actually click and see the data. So this allows you to see the users. You can add new users and delete them, whatever you need to do there. So that's it for the new data UI. It's pretty simple. The main thing we did is we removed it from the pop-up, right? So it was in this pop-up, and eventually all of these left panel items are going to go to that. So like if I go to routes, for instance, right? This pops up into a new window and it kind of overtakes everything. All of those will get moved into this left panel to some extent. There might be some things that still require a pop-up depending on what's going on. But that's the data collections update. And then further on data, we also now have regional data. So right now we have 3 regions globally. So we have the US, we have Western Europe, and we have Asia. And those 3 regions are, you can select for a project, and basically it does 2 things. It means that that project will execute from that region as the base, but it also means now that the data itself that your users create will actually be stored in that region. And that's a big deal, especially in the EU, where you need to have the data for data privacy laws. You have to have the data stored inside the EU. So it solves that problem. When you're creating a new project, you can select your region. If you don't do that, you can also go into project settings and you can actually change the region from here. So you click change region, this link, and it's going to walk you through it. It's going to warn you, and I'm not actually going to go all the way through this because I don't want to actually change it for mine. But you just pick the region you want, and then you confirm the new region. And it does take it a moment because it actually migrates all of the data out of the current region into the other region. And now you're executing out of that other region. So it takes it a moment to do it. And it'll tell you, it's working on it, it's working on it, it's working on it, and it'll finish. So depending on how big your data is, it might take a few seconds or it might take minutes. It just depends on how much data you've got. So that's migrating data. Anything I missed there, Dorian? That kind of covers it.
No, I think that's it. But we can call out that it's not just the end user data, it's also the entire structured data.
Good call. Yeah, so when you're actually modifying things in your project, it's also storing the information about your project in that region as well. So it's literally everything about your project gets based out of that region. That way you never have to worry about local laws or anything like that, whatever's being required of your project. Obviously, if you're doing something that requires medical compliance or something, you need to be specific to the locale that you're serving in. That's really what that kind of work is for. So let's take a look at the Chrome extension export. So right now, the way that we have this export working is you're going to go into the page properties and click a button and fill out some information. And that thing's going to spit out a zip file that you can then add into your own Google Chrome developer profile. And that will allow it to basically show up in the Chrome web store. So I've got this little app here that I was creating. I never actually finished this app, but I need to. It's just a little list app that I use. And I'm already using it for my personal stuff. But it's actually a project I want to complete. Little to-do app. Everybody who builds enough projects for enough number of years eventually builds a to-do app. So this is mine. The way to access it, if you go to the settings of a page, you'll see this button down here, Export Chrome Extension. Now this only appears if you're on a Pro account. So if you do want to export a Chrome extension, you do need to be on a Pro account.
But right now, everyone gets a month trial for free. So if you want to check it out, now's the time.
Yeah, so if you go to publish or you just go to the pricing page and sign up and add a plan. If you upgrade to Pro, you can do it with a 30-day free trial, and then you can export Chrome extensions and test it out and see how that goes. And once it's exported, it's just going to function. You just won't be able to re-export it if you down the line. Now, the interesting thing about the way this works, though, because what you're exporting is actually a view of your app. So for my project, it's actually the same app. It's the same web app is going to load inside of the extension. So there's really no difference. What's great about that is I can publish to my project here, and it'll actually update the app. Now, I'm sorry, the extension. So the only thing that could be missed there, though, is if you're using a new type of function or action that is specific for Chrome extension, and that isn't in your exported thing, you might have to re-export your Chrome extension again and resubmit it to Chrome for getting pre-approved. I actually submitted this on Wednesday for approval. They denied it because my description wasn't good enough for the app. They denied it yesterday. I just rewrote the description more broad with more detail on it and resubmitted it this morning. So hopefully it'll get approved this week, and then I'll show everyone this app as the example. I'm doing it as a private one rather than just submitting it to the web store, because I'm not really ready with this project. But at least then I can share the link with you all, and you can go try it out, even though I know the project's not really ready for prime time. So let's go through the process of actually doing the export. So I'm just going to click on Export Chrome Extension, and there's several settings here you want to pay attention to. Name and short name is pretty straightforward. It doesn't really matter what you put in here, because when you get it into the Chrome developer area, you're going to fill all this out again. You have to fill some of this out for them as well. Version is the version that you're specifying for the Chrome extension. You can put whatever version you want in there. It's just manual. You're literally just saying version 1, version 2, whatever you want. Manifest version will probably end up defaulting this to 3, but it should be 3 right now. And by the way, I am making a lesson and a blog post on exporting Chrome extensions, because there's actually a lot to this, more than I'll want to go through in this call. In the developer area of Chrome, where you need to become a developer account, you have to pay $5 one-time fee, and there's all these steps to it. You have to wait for approval and things to look out for, that kind of stuff. So I'll go through more of it in that blog post. But you're gonna give it the home page, give it the main page of the project, upload an icon for it, and then this right panel is where you can specify placement of it. So in this one, I wanted a right panel. So basically that means it's going to show up as a right panel when they click on the icon to load the extension. It'll basically load in the right panel, but you can make it whatever you want. So you can do it. We made some defaults: left panel, right panel, top banner, bottom banner, just as defaults, but you can also do a floating one where you actually specify exactly where it's positioned. So this is just using absolute positioning, which is how Chrome extensions kind of operate. It basically is putting your app as a web page inside of the other web page in there, and then that allows it to have interactions back and forth. So when you click the export, I'm going to put this back to right panel, and then when you click export, it goes and does its work. Oh, and I'm in Dorian. There's a bug in Dev, isn't there?
Shouldn't be in depth, man.
I know. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's see. Hopefully I'm signed into production already. Still have product hunt tab on here from years ago. Yeah, I'm not signed in there with access to that, but it exports this zip file, which I'll go pull up. Let's see. It exports this zip file right here. So this is the solo extension zip. And when you're uploading to the Chrome store, you actually just give it this zip file. That's all you do. So you don't have to open it or anything. You literally just export it. If you're wanting to do it manually, I don't know if you all know about this, but you can actually manually put a Chrome extension into your Chrome browser anytime you want. And the way you do that, if I go over here and I go to Chrome //extensions, and this will all be in the blog post and lessons. You can do this thing called developer mode, and then load unpacked. And this lets you actually go around the Chrome extension store and just upload the source you want. So you literally just put whatever you want into your own browser anytime you want. And that's primarily just for testing. So this would allow you to this is how you're going to test out that extension to see like the placement of it. Is that really what I want? Do I want it to be bigger? Do I want it to, do something totally different? So that allows you to basically test it out beforehand. And all this
That's
will be
awesome.
in much more depth.
So
down the
Mark, would
line.
you recommend people who are interested in building Chrome extensions do that like before submitting to the store?
You kind of need to, because you might find some things in there that are, where you don't want to have to wait until it's already approved and then realize like, oh, my positioning is off. I don't like the way it looks or acts, because it is a process to get it approved. Like they're going to go through an approval process. You have to upload images. You have to upload at least one image of the app, and they really prefer like a video where you go make a video and show it what the app does and all this stuff. And then there are some other details too, where like if you need to have access to the page, like this little project that I have, it doesn't actually interact with the browser at all. It's just an easier way to manage your tasks. And so I'm not worrying about like trying to get things from, say you're wanting to scrape or something like that. If you're going to scrape the page, they actually ask you to provide a reason for doing it. So some of the approval will just be totally up to Google, and they might respond to you and say, well, we're okay with you doing this, but you can't do that, right? Some of that's just out of our control. In Bildr right now, if you go to a flow, and I'll just go to this one and add an action. If you go to a flow and you type in Chrome, there's two Chrome extension actions that are in here right now. The query selector, get query selector, basically allows you to scrape anything off the page based on a query selector. And then the get domain name allows you to pull the domain name of that page. This will eventually probably have 20 or 30 default actions in it. So if you're trying to do something specific, you can just let us know what you want and we can really easily add these in. But effectively, your page that's executing that extension can interact with the browser in pretty much any way you can imagine. The trick is going to be, does the extension that you're creating provide value for the end user? That's what Chrome's going to look at, whether or not they're going to approve you. But in terms of what you can do in that browser, it's pretty much anything JavaScript can do. So the sky's the limit. So if you're not a if you are a JavaScript developer, you can actually just kind of mimic what these do and go take it from there. There's a decently complex messaging system that we use to pass data back and forth, but it's all inside of those functions. If you're not a JavaScript developer, reach out and tell us exactly what you're trying to do, because we need to know what are the most important ones to build out next for the actions. And we're happy to do that work. So that's the Chrome extension. There's a lot more to it. I'm working on a blog post. I'm working on a set of lessons for this. There's a lot that goes into it. But in essence, build your web app first and just assume it's going to work exactly the same in the extension. And then, if you are ready to export your extension before I get the blog post out, reach out. It's not that complicated. It's just we want to have the steps specified so that there's no questions.
I have a question, Mark. So,
yeah.
If anyone has questions on the Chrome extension, feel free to chat. Do you have to do, so because the Chrome extension is, I guess, like it sits in like this fixed width, how do you do the styling for that? Like, I'm guessing you have to have a media query for that width?
Do you mean the styling of the box itself? Or
no, like the styling of the app for how it looks like when it's in the Chrome extension.
Yeah, the way I'm doing it with mine is I just made mine responsive, right? So I already wanted it responsive anyways, because I use it on my phone and I use it on the browser, and so, or on the computer. And so because of that, it just by default works at that width. It looks like the mobile version of it, just super tall. So in terms of design and styling, that's really the only consideration that you want to have there. Which you should be doing anyways for most of your apps, right? So the use cases I've seen are things like my task app, where it's really doesn't do much interaction with the page that's in the browser. It's really more of like quick access while I'm working on other things. You might have that kind of a thing. That's the simplest type of Chrome extension to make. The other ones are things like I'm working with the guys at No Code Devs, Art and Paul, we're looking at doing one where they can basically make an extension that looks at the site you're on and loads the list of lessons for that site. So like if you're at Bildr.com, it'll load the Bildr lessons automatically. If you're at Webflow.com, it'll load the Webflow lessons automatically from their Airtable set of collections. So effectively, they go into Bildr, build a web app that uses their Airtable data that's already existing. And then the real work is just on this page that's going to be the extension, check the domain name and load the proper ones. Just do the request for that set instead of that set. And that's the whole deal. And there's that. And then there's also scraping. That's the other big, so contextual data. And then there's scraping where you need to pull something off of there, which I know Reimar, I think he's in here. Reimar has a really good use case for scraping as well, where he wants the user to be able to pull things off and then put that into a database and reuse that for display on websites and things like that.
I'm actually itching to like make a pitch right now and see if anybody in here wants to like talk about collaborating on something like that, because I would love to showcase that functionality on something that I've been like dreaming about for a year here about a Chrome extension.
I think the first time you and I talked about it was a year ago.
Yeah.
We had a call about it like a year ago.
Yeah.
You know, saying, yeah, we'll get it there. We'll get it there. I promise.
Yeah. 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 So if
Yeah,
anybody with some Bildr experience here that might be interested in acting as a mentor at some level, I'd love to pay you for some of your time and get some help trying to bring that thing to life.
Raymar, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Let's hear it.
The idea is a tool that collects content from a website and feeds that data to a source. So my first use case would be Webflow. And the idea is to be able to bring in collaborators to help me curate content from around the web, and then to rate and leave thoughts on a website. So theoretically, I could, like, let's say I'm exploring here's the best use case really is like a financial planner, right? Let's say I'm a financial planner, I have a subscription service and people pay me a lot of money for my advice and a newsletter on a monthly basis. Well, instead of waiting for my newsletter on a monthly basis, I would love to be able to invite them in to see my research in real time. So how that would work is as I'm browsing and I'm reading the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or whatever I'm getting my information from, I could clip little sections and maybe highlight the page or clip a little paragraph and feed that into then a database that now a controlled user group can access. So like if you're in my group, now you can come and see what I'm clipping. You can see my notes on the page. You can see why a certain news article is relevant. And those could be public or private. And there's a ton of use cases why that's interesting, primarily building shared media properties. And so I think you could then get a group of, let's say, journalists working with a tool like this to build the next distributed media company. And they're literally just kind of crawling the web, looking for interesting things by topic, curating them into a collection that then they own, they monetize. It's their website. It doesn't live on a platform. It doesn't live on a Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. It's literally their source. It's just theirs. And so the idea would then be to start playing with the incentive structures inside of that. Can you pay people for those interactions? Can you somehow build distribution mechanisms around that information exchange? Could you build a signal to noise rating on a website based on like how people are engaging with this? So it's kind of deep. That's like the mile high view of it. But the first tool would literally be opening up a browser extension on the page, letting people kind of see the open graph data, grab the URL, maybe leave some comments and share that into a database and then hopefully grow from there. So
I love the concept, Reimar, because of it's like organic but distinct content generation, you know?
Yeah.
And usually organic is not distinct, right? It's like I'm crawling and just finding all this and curating with some AI, but this is like, I'm going to get this person who I already subscribe to on Substack, and
Right.
I'm going to get their thought process as it's coming, which that's awesome. Like
Well, think about
I would upgrade for that.
the niche markets of this, right? Because like right now, everyone on social media can just participate at scale. Whereas like, I don't know, like I would love to have a curated feed of the top 50 no coders who are clipping around. Like, what are y'all reading? Oh, I have a feed of just this stuff. Like I'm there every day. Like I don't need a newsletter. I don't need someone to create this. Just like show me what you're interacting with. And by virtue of like that, you automatically create like an attention engine. And what is social media? Like literally advertising and incentives online are derived from attention engines. And so the goal here is can you realign some of those incentives in that attention engine to be more geared towards the creators and consumers of the content rather than the publisher or the middleman or the advertiser. And I think if you could make that shift, like you would you change the game. Like you literally change the whole internet game.
That's sweet. And from
Yeah,
from that
Love
first
it.
UI perspective, oh, sorry, go ahead, Drew.
Sorry, that was me. I'm just saying, love it.
Great. Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry, I thought it was Drew that said that. Yeah, so from the UI perspective, the first version of that is pretty simple. It's basically when the page loads, grab the metadata that you're looking for, pull it onto the extension page, which that query selector will get most of that data already. The query selector action and the domain action will get most of that already. Anything else we could add to it pretty easy. Basically pull that in, and now you've got it on the page, and then have the user like click a button in the extension page that says add this to my Webflow collection. So
Right.
when the user signs up, they would sign up and they'd put in their Webflow like credentials effectively, and that would get stored with that user inside of this app in Bildr.
Sure.
And then that way, when they go to it, they sign in. Now they click add to my collection, and it's adding to the collections properly. Right. That's kind of like the high level.
Yeah. And the
framework.
cool thing on that would be like, I'd like to separate that connection as a destination. So like your destination could be Airtable, your destination could be WordPress, your destination could be like whatever you want. And so literally we grab the kind of like the open graph information, which is public on any URL. And then maybe the extension could open up a mapped form or a dynamic form that just maps to whatever database you've connected to. And so now you could literally clip into any tool you want. Maybe that's a newsletter tool, or maybe that's a, I don't know, whatever.
That's totally doable. And Drew is putting together a list of experts and people who are training to become experts right now. So we're getting this exact thing like daily right now. Who can help me build this right now? And then we've got this group of people who are already proficient enough to help and want to take the money, right? So we'll start putting all that stuff together now, and Drew's working on it actively. Well, we all are really.
Yeah, I just shared my email in the my personal email in the chat here. If anybody's interested, I'm 100% serious about this. And we've validated piece of this. Like I actually spent a lot of time with the software team trying to build this. We were just trying to build too much, like we tried to build the whole thing, the back end, the CMS, the browser extension, the whole like platform. It's like, no, you got to let Webflow be the CMS, let WordPress be the CMS, like let everyone do all the work. You just get the people using the little tool, So that's like refining this as a second stab at trying to bring this thing to life as a more streamlined and refined idea. So, yeah.
I know Drew, Cora, Dorian, and Michael will probably all agree with me when I say the customer who comes to me and says, I've already tried this once and failed is like the best customer for an agency or freelancer.
Yeah, we've made all the mistakes. I promise you, we've made all the mistakes. And I know like, okay, let's just trim this list like this of features to like this list of features. And let's start with that. Yeah. That's actually why I got into no code. Is because I was so frustrated with the process with the dev team, not being able to communicate with them, not being able to like show them what I was actually trying to build and iterate in any meaningful way. And then we would talk, they'd come back 2 weeks later and I'd be like, what the hell is this? And it's just like, oh my God. And so like that, yeah, going through that for a year or two was just like, I'm out. It forced me into no code. And yeah, that's what got me here.
I love that aspect that you just brought up, Remar, of with a tool like Bildr, you can bring in a dev to do a bunch of the heavy lifting. But then 2 months later, if that dev isn't around anymore, you can actually go in and with some effort, but you can actually go in and change the label or make a change to add some logic to it or whatever. It's also easier for somebody else to come in and modify that logic, or make some change to it or add something to it. That's a part that I want to start, really propagating as we do these connections of putting freelancers and agencies with people who are needing help. We're also seeing it with internal tools, people building internal tools. And one of the reasons they're doing it is because they can like have a dev who's already built their app and they use Bildr to like connect to the data the app is producing and create like partner portals and internal tools off of all that. It's just connecting all the pieces together. It's something fairly unique to Bildr because there's really you can do all the things, or you can just do the one thing you need to do,
Right.
So,
yeah.
I want more clients like Raymar. I help run our agency side of it, and boy, like scope creep is the hardest thing that you deal with. It's probably the hardest thing to manage for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Is communication around
And just
that
out,
because
yeah. Even if you're, especially if you're noob, like I didn't know anything about information architecture. I didn't know anything about like databases or, like how these things speak to each other or what, like, and even certain things on the design where we were just like, it's got to be this pretty thing. And that added so much complexity where like, it just could have been so much simpler and gotten to the point, and so like, yeah, just things you learn as you go, technology's hard. Like building real good technology is like hard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that sounds really, really great. So hopefully you'll have some folks reach out. And then as Drew starts getting the program and getting all the agencies and everything trained, I think there will be more people who are definitely down to take on that project too.
Yeah, great.
I'll make an announcement soon too. I guess there are a lot of people that submitted, so I'm trying to figure out the best next step. But I know some of you in here submitted for that expert thing, and I'm just gonna try to take advantage and get everyone linked up so we can all just do this. But I gotta figure it all out first.
And I'm pretty capable and willing to learn too. So, like ideally, I would be able to get hands-on in this with somebody. Like that'd be the dream world. Is that I'm learning also. I'm pretty proficient with some other no-code tools. So I think. Really, it's just that like the way I learn, there's not as much documentation probably as I would like on some of this stuff. So just having some hands-on time with somebody or whatever that relationship would evolve into, that'd be great.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, everyone. So I'm going to send out one last chat before we jump off the call. And this is going to be for you guys to be able to tell me what out of all of these things is the thing that you most want to have so that we can consider this for the next release that we do. So I'll go through them, but I think maybe Dorian, you might be better at explaining what some of these are. So the first one is a data UI. Kind of Mark alluded to it earlier, where you'd be able to, it's like a built-in UI for you to see the data records from your data collection that your users are creating or you are creating, and then be able to modify them, create them manually, delete them, etc. Did I get that right, Mark? Okay, so like a nice UI already built in for that so that you don't have to make one yourself. Then the second feature would be external APIs to set up integrations that allow access to Bildr data. Sorry, there's an incorrect 3 right there. Anything else on the external API one, Dorian?
I think that's right. It's basically just being able to do the full CRUD on Bildr data externally. Because right now we don't make that available.
Okay, cool. All right, so there's that one, that's number 2. And then number 3 would be hotkeys for adding elements like divs and containers. And we can also lump in the thing that Mark was talking about where you can right click and potentially nest a child. And so hotkeys would be like, say you have an element selected, you could just push a hotkey or a page and it'll automatically insert something like a div or a container or a text element, depending on whichever key you push. So if that, if like styling super fast and being able to do that would be your favorite thing, chat that one. And then also 4 is the ability to duplicate style classes from the style editor. I think Shannon Duncan was the one who really wanted this because he was creating a lot of style classes when he was building some of his patterns for, I think it was like Tailwind and like some style guides. So duplicating those. And then, I like what Fraser did. He did in order of importance. So if that's great, if you guys want to do that, that would be awesome. And then ability to duplicate flows. So if you have a nice flow set up and you want to duplicate that, and add it somewhere else, or duplicate it, modify a little bit. On the duplicate with flows, Mark, does that also include like copying a flow and adding it to another page?
So that's copy paste also. So like copy a flow, paste it in another. And the other thing that would come with that too, that you can, it's basically like control click or command click to copy like 3 actions out of a flow and paste those 3 in another flow. It's basically just reworking that whole structure of just moving flows around much easier.
Okay, cool. So we will add that one in if you're thinking about the ability to duplicate flow. So if anyone wants to redo their order, now that you know what that includes, feel free to chat it. So yeah, I'll just give you guys some time to chat what your favorite things are, and then I shall collect that data and we'll do some of that stuff. And then is there anything else that like you guys are really struggling with that you want something for? Like now's the time to chat it. So I can consider it for this next update. Okay, see you, Raymar. Thank you for dropping in and tell us about what you're working on. It's very exciting. Okay. I'll give you guys a few minutes if you need to jump off. Thank you for coming today. It's great to see all of you. And then we'll do this again. We are going to be potentially changing the time. So just to see if we can allow more people to make it, since it's on a Friday and it's kind of late for some people. So I'll probably send out a tweet about that, and then create some more Bildr hours for the new time. And then hopefully we'll see how that works. We'll just do it for a few weeks at a time. And then if we find out it's like not working for more people, then we can always switch it back to this time. Okay. And then looks like Fraser has a request for getting access to a snapshot of the JSON to version control on GitHub. And then Peter's got, it would be great to set a schema from received API data. Okay. Maybe we can consider that as part of the data UI stuff, being able to show if it comes from an API or something.
That one's a little different, but
it is. Okay.
There is something. There is one other thing too that I've been considering for a while. We've talked about it a bunch of times, and that's making certain, like being able to basically create an API as a data collection, as opposed to always having to do custom one-off APIs. We get a lot of benefit if we go that route. We will eventually do this, but I don't know the timing on it. But eventually, it needs to be a data collection for a lot of reasons. But one of the primary reasons is we could then allow you to use this external API data with SEO. So right now, if you have a Bildr collection, you can do a syntax and a page header to like get the title of the page or get the name or any OG data, meta tag data from the data collection itself. So you can do some nice work on SEO with Bildr collections. If we did that, you could also do it like if you have an Airtable base, you could pull that in as part of it and just as a collection and use it as a part of the SEO data, which would be really cool. So eventually that'll come in, and that is more, when we get to that level of like you're setting up an API as a data collection, that means we have to go do the first call, get the schema, show you that schema, and let you map everything out, right? So that's the kind of goes along with that schema part.
All right, I love it. Okay, guys. Well, I think that is going to be a wrap today. Have a great weekend, everyone, and chat us if you need anything, or if you notice anything that we need to fix. We'd love to hear about it, so we can do that for you. Bye, everyone.
See you guys.